One of the things that we did before COVID was that we would organize, small kind of agile summits. We are at Favro, we're not consultants. What we do from a consulting point of view is that we partner with people and companies like Jon, because most of our customers, especially like the bigger ones, they typically implement Favro as part of doing kind of an agile transformation process. Then, of course, we have many customers that are venture-backed SaaS companies, and game studios, and they have just set up. So for them, they start with more of a blank sheet, and actually often they need a little bit less help. But when it's like a big enterprise and there's a bit of a kind of an agile transformation going on, so there's sometimes a need for getting some support. Want someone who both understands agile transformation and can train people, but also understands tools. And Favro being basically the most kind of agile tool, it also means that it's quite easy for someone like Jon to kind of adapt the setup to whatever client is meeting. So it doesn't matter if it happens to be a game developer and they need to worry about external art development, or if it's a professional services firm, that are worried about is everyone on my team going to kind of understand this agile way of working? How can I involve my clients? Things like that. So the kind of questions can be quite different, and obviously it's great to be able to have a conversation around that. And this is where Jon comes in. And at the Favro, we do our best to make the tool and the platform and to continue to make this platform so adaptable that all of these things can be met. And but since we are coming from kind of a thought leadership, personally I've been in the trenches of Agile for 20 years now. So we like to kind of get people together, and we did that more physically, obviously, before COVID, and we're going to get back to that again. But now we're doing it through Zoom. So we're also keeping it quite short. As you've seen, this is not a very long session. There will be no after summit drinks. I'm very sorry about that, but otherwise we would have that. We can all get to know each other a little bit better. But what I can promise you is that vaccination is moving forward. Things are getting better. We are already planning for doing like a physical kind of get together, in the fall, and I think that will be awesome. And that will basically be, people at, all of you. I see so many customers here on the list. So it will be people from your companies that are agile experts, that are, line managers, executives, some people from IT. Also, some people that are, just now looking at how can they do a transformation into more of an agile way of working. And of course, we will invite all our agile partners, like Jon. We also have recent new agile partners in Italy, in Scandinavia. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. And that's actually a pretty good segue. I made my own segue. I guess maybe not how you're supposed to do it. Jon, I guess I should have handed over to you, and you should have given me the segue so I can get into the whole kind of opening remarks of this.
You've got
it's going to be very short because we all want to get into the meat of this. Sorry, Jon, you were saying?
No, you've got this. That was a perfect segue to yourself.
Because I think we're ready now. We shouldn't wait longer. So this is also recorded. So for anyone who's coming in late now and wants to see the very beginning, probably not, because it was just kind of me talking about the background to all of this. But you can watch it afterwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just very, very quickly give some perspectives of what is going on right now, because everything got more complicated with COVID, and I'll explain why. But it also got more interesting in some ways. And I'm just going to share my screen. I normally never do any slides, but today I did prepare a few actually, not many, but very, very few for you. So, John, is this, are you able to see my kind of a little bit cluttery slide here? Are you muted, John? John, are you able to see the slide?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, that's fantastic. So good. All right, so some of you, I saw some people here that I known a long time. So one of them is Daniel. He's like, we can see it. It is cluttered. Yes, I know it. Sorry, I'll walk you through it. I just try to summarize everything going on right now in one slide, and of course that this is not a good one for like a pitch deck or something, but it's a summary of what's going on right now. So the ones of you that know me since before, that together with my two fellow co-founders, I built another company before called Handsoft, and Handsoft became basically the premium platform for agile application lifecycle management. So basically, if you want to scale agile software development into really large industrial teams, Handsoft was really what to use. But this was an on-premise tool, so it was in the area on-prem. It's still very widely used, but obviously one of the first things that have changed in the world is that people have moved into cloud. Even the more hesitant ones, like financial institutions, not all, but some, like defense companies, also game developers in the past have been very, from an IT point of view, picky about this, but they also moved into the cloud. So what we thought was that, okay, we need to make an entirely new platform, which is cloud-based, but also have that enterprise-grade, security and data governance. And this is back in 2016, and we didn't know that GDPR and Cloud Act and all these kind of things was going to be such big things. So we kind of were a little bit lucky there, because obviously that did become very important, and Favro is really built for companies that care about those things, and we do actually have a lot of government agencies in Europe that are worried about these things. But me, with my background in not only technology but social psychology and kind of hyper performing teams and all those kind of things, and my awesome years in the Air Force as a leadership instructor, like all that like good stuff, it doesn't have anything to do with like data governance. So but it's something that needed to be, so cloud, data governance, etc. So we decided to start this company, Favro, but the big idea was really that we observed a trend. And the trend that we observed, and how this market is really changing, is that agile or agility is not something anymore which was just for software developers. It's something that everyone was starting to embrace. Marketing, operations, leadership, etc. But the big question then is, of course, why? Why? It's not, this we have enough of buzzwords in the world. So why is this important, and why has this been a trend being very sticky, and now I would say transforming into, let's say, the normal? So this is like the new normal. And the reasons for that is some of the things I tried to summarize in this very cluttered slide. If you look at successful companies of the past, it was a lot about command and control. I was taking some kind of old management books there, and if you read them, it's all about kind of like how do you control the organization. And if you look at a lot of the kind of more modern literature and writing on this, it's all about how do you make not only each team super adaptable, but the whole organization. And why adaptability? Well, it's very simple. It's just the world is moving faster. It's more complex, and and it becomes more important to very quickly be able to adapt to change rather than efficiencies of economy of scale. This has been the driver for this. I mean, for someone like me who's been around for a long time in the Agile community, it was very much a bottom-up movement. But today, this is driven from the top. Any Fortune 500 CEO who doesn't have an Agile transformation program is not worth its salt. You have McKinsey making a ton of money out of helping companies with this. It's all changed quite a bit. You also have a change in the workforce. We talk a lot about generation Y, Z taking over the workforce. They do not like command and control. They want more autonomy. They want to be in an organization where it's more value driven. Money is of course always important, but maybe not as important as it used to be. So there are these kind of changes going on. So before COVID, this was just driving a lot of change. But I would argue that this change was very much opportunity driven. It was very much driven by being more competitive to other companies, by being more adaptable, and being able to attract the best talent. These were the things that were driving. Simply being better than the competition, and in that way winning. Now, so it was a big trend already, and this is why we started Favro in the first place. But then COVID happened. The world was quite brutally forced into remote work, because, to be honest, I think pretty much everyone who is on this call today are in a team where you can work remote. Let's say that you are not doubting what I'm saying. I can tell you that we actually have customers, and I'm thinking about one particular one, which is a beer company, who quite radically had to change the whole way they approach the market. They need to get to a place where there's only 2 people physically in the office, which was not the office, it was actually the factory making the beer. And they had to change the whole business model, how they operated, and they were able to kind of get through this in a very nice way. So even businesses where you think that it's a very kind of hands-on physical business, you might actually be in a situation where it is possible to go more remote. Now, we are on our way out of COVID now, and company after company are announcing that, okay, we're not going back to normal, we're going back to a bit of a hybrid. And this is a lot based upon the fact that there's been some positive things spotted within all of this. And if you look at surveys with employees, they will typically answer that the ultimate setup for them would be 2 or maybe 3 days working from home, and 2, maybe 3 days working from the office. So companies are starting to embrace this because they want to, again, continue to attract the best talent, develop the best talent, but also because there's simply some great efficiencies coming out of this. And the question then is, well, kind of how do you do this? And this is where we get into my next slide here, because it's basically an old problem with an old solution. Because if you want to achieve business agility, and I try to illustrate that here with these kind of more circular things, kind of like taken from Scrum or something like that, instead of being very square. But here on the business agility side, doing this at scale, so it's not only one team here, it has to be this team actually collaborating with this team. In this case here is 2 teams collaborating with each other, but also having a very collaborative approach with management, and then the whole organization, being very adaptable, being very agile. So one of the things you can actually already see from this image which is one of the key elements to do this successfully at scale, is that you need to have team autonomy. If you have an organization that builds upon command and control, everything has to kind of go up the ranks. It's too slow. It doesn't work. You need to have the adaptability on a team level, and you achieve that by basically every team having the people and the goals and the leadership to be autonomous. Going back here, there's an amazing book written about this called The Art of Action. That doesn't even mention Agile once. I read it twice and I couldn't see the word once. So it doesn't talk about Agile, but it talks about this kind of transition and why it's so important and why it's happening right now. But that book was written before COVID as well. So everything is, went from opportunity driven to now being also necessity driven. So if you look at this image, many of you probably recognize it. It's been very much popularized by Spotify and the Spotify model, and when they explain what they're trying to do, and that understanding alignment and autonomy as like opposites is a misconception. It is really two axes, like this. Important to remember that most organizations today that are very successful, they are here. They have achieved success by a very high level of alignment, through centralized processes, through the command and control, and just generally trying to make everything, I guess centralized is the right word, and that works great. If you don't need that kind of super adaptability. And then you have the situation down here, we have a super high degree of autonomy, but no alignment. And you might think, well, who ends up in that situation? It's actually very common. It's actually a big risk for many of our clients, because many of our clients are venture capital funded. And this is quite often what can happen when you raise like a lot of money. You can recruit all the people, you want to get the best people. You are very deliberate about autonomous teams, because again, you want to have the best engineers. You want to make it a good environment for your engineers, for your marketing people, for your ops, for everyone, right? But the problem is that if you don't have the alignment, everyone's just going to kind of go in different directions, and what happens then is that at some point, you run out of money because you've been spending a lot of money on everything you've been doing, but you haven't achieved maybe the results that you could get from having people aligned. Obviously, kind of military metaphors come very easily here now. I don't know if you like playing strategy games, but I do. And you need to kind of have your various troops aligned. You need to have the infantry, with the Navy, with the Air Force. It has to be going in the same direction. But it's the same thing, with a business, or not even a business, any organization. It can even be like a political campaign. So what you do want to achieve is, of course, the top right corner. It's always the top right corner, right? What does it mean then, the top right corner? Well, if you're going to have alignment and autonomy, there's a structural question to this. How do you organize these teams? You have the classic, 7 ± 2 people. You have that in Scrum. You have that in Spotify model, squads. You have that actually in a lot of kind of special forces organizations within the military. So it's like the same thing with many names. But that's just a structural part. You also need to have the right kind of goals. And I think many of you have heard the spiel about OKRs, objectives, key results. And we're going to make a special video just about that, because we're getting so many questions about it. Favro is very well designed for that, and we're going to make sure that we have something quite concrete, with some practical examples. You can see that. Good. And then you have the leadership part. So I think most leaders today have realized that being a kind of a dictator kind of leader is not the thing anymore. You want to be more of a facilitator. So if you think about planning, your job is maybe not to chop everything down into like tiny pieces in like a Gantt schedule and tell everyone exactly what to do. Your job is rather to lead that a more collaborative way of planning is being done. Because if you have all these like tight dependencies between teams, them being collaborative is going to be more important than creating some kind of perfect Gantt scale up front, which is not going to work anyways. But what we thought here was that the missing piece here was that was just no one who had done a tool for this. So I'm obviously going like a little bit pitch mode here now, and I'm going to get out of that in a second. But if you look at the way that the market is, what we saw was that you have some very traditional tools here in the kind of top left, and they're typically built by acquisitions. So they have bought a lot of different tools and they kind of built an enterprise platform, but it becomes very kind of central oriented. I think the best example of that is probably Atlassian, which is probably the best tool from the old generation, but it still builds upon a very centralized ID of tickets. And you probably experienced this yourself if you ever use something like Jira, that if you want to, you have this great retrospective, you decided to update some workflows, but then like, oh crap, I have to like contact IT, and they will update the process, or maybe they will, maybe not, and we're gonna take time. It's just if you're gonna talk about autonomy, you actually need to have autonomy. You need to give that autonomy, that power to the teams. So what typically happens, and what we see happening right now, we see it a lot with like kind of Asana and Monday, and also ClickUp is on the scale, is that they're moving kind of up left. They are adding a lot of features because they want to be more kind of like enterprise-ish, but as they do, it basically becomes the same kind of features that we saw in the past. So we kind of foresee this coming already back in 2016, and it definitely happened that way. The benefit that we had is it's not like we're that much smarter than everyone else. It's just that we had this long experience in Agile community to build upon. We had a design for what this should look like for these kind of organizations. And from an entrepreneurial point of view, we also had the money to invest to kind of build this from the beginning. And we didn't have to do this whole like climb up here that everyone else is doing. So this is kind of how we got to that market. And for many of you, as I said, we have customers that are professional services, we have venture-backed startups, we have game companies, we have enterprises. But what is typically the thing here, and this is a bit my kind of ending note, is that if you look at, let's say, compare this part here, these two teams collaborating with management there, we do the same, let's say, over here. So that in the old, it was a lot about how can we get better processes and tools to optimize this part, let's say, a little bit better, 10%, 20% better. But that's not the big pain today. The pain today is that this team needs to be able to deliver on a weekly, maybe even daily basis in sync with that team. And then, this kind of old hierarchical approach doesn't work anymore. The centralized approach doesn't work anymore. You need to have collaborative planning. Not only in leadership, in goals, in processes, but also in your tool. And this is really what has been leading up to Favro and where we are today. This is what guides us in the things we are developing right now, and we're going to show some of that stuff today. So with that said, I would like to hand back to Jon. So for all of you, lean back, enjoy some kind of good, best practices here, and Jon, take it away.
Thanks, Patric. Yeah, and I think Patric really hit the nail on the head when he said that a lot of these other tools, and there's plenty of them, that kind of position themselves as agile collaboration tools. In order to scale, they have to head into that kind of more control quadrant in the grid that Patric showed, that centralized, and it truly becomes kind of more of just another command and control tool at the end of the day. Whereas Favro is unique in that it really truly allows that collaborative planning across teams of teams. It doesn't create additional silos like a lot of these other tools do. I mean, you take a look at Asana, for example, or ClickUp, or any of them really, that are cards on a board, right? That's how teams want to work. They essentially become silos in and of themselves because it's one team looking at one screen with a single Kanban board on it. It's just Trello all over again, right? So you'll see in Favro, and people who are already using Favro know that, you know, when I share my screen, and hopefully everybody can see this, yes, you're looking at something more like this, right? So here I have a company dashboard, and instead of all of these boards at the team level, as you see here on the right, and their kind of corresponding backlogs, as you see here on the left, existing in separate projects or separate collections, as you call them in Favro, or whatever the case may be. The point being is that to get to any one of these boards, whether it's a marketing board or an IT board, you typically have to go to another collection, to another channel, to another project in order to get to it. And that in and of itself creates these unnecessary silos. And in Favro, you can have boards in multiple places at the same time. So as you see here, even though this might look cluttered, this really becomes kind of a very high level view, this company dashboard for the entire organization. So I'm going to show you some of the new stuff or recently released stuff in Favro. And one of them is very much related to this. So there's always been this concept of two panels, if you will, in Favro. So there's the left panel, which you can expand and collapse with B, and the right panel, which you can expand and collapse with R as a hotkey, or use the UI up here to do the same thing. So now boards where they used to be different in the left-hand panel, used to be different from the standpoint of, if I have a backlog and I want to create a hierarchy, so to say, I could only do that on the left-hand side. Now you can do that on the right-hand side as well. So there's no difference between boards on the left-hand side and boards on the right-hand side. They're the same thing, and you can drag and drop them between the two sides any way you choose. So it's this whole idea of unified boards. A board is a board no matter where it lives in the UI. One of the things that is very recent and has been a huge hit already is this concept of collection folders. So a lot of times when I'm working with teams and they are just starting out with the tool and they've kind of let people go whole hog, and that's a brilliant thing in Favro because the teams themselves could create their own collections, they can create their own boards, they can create their own backlogs, do whatever they want. But it kind of slowly but surely becomes a little bit chaotic. So to handle that organic scaling that Favro supports, that flexible, natural scaling of agility that Favro supports, this recent addition of collection folders has been a huge addition because right now, from day one, you can come in and map the structure, whatever structure you have in your organization, directly to the tool, and then create those collections within that structure. Again, from day one. So for example, here, maybe you have a very flat organization like you'd want to have in an Agile organization, Agile company, where you just have an executive portfolio, the leadership team essentially, and then everybody else. Everybody else would be organized into probably product lines or value streams. So in this sample SaaS company organization, Favro organization, we have the leadership level, and then we also have the two products that this company actually supports. So they have product.ai1 and product.ai2. If I open up the collection folder for the leadership team or the leadership level of the organization, providing direction to everybody else, creating that alignment that Patrick was talking about, you can see that we have things in here like the company dashboard, maybe high-level things like infrastructure investment, a leadership dashboard, office operations, and people operations, and that's it. And then if I open up the first product, this product.ai1, you can see that maybe there's multiple development teams that work on this product, There's a DevOps team dedicated to this product, a product dashboard, and there's also for the product managers or the product manager responsible for this product, he'd have his own, he or she would have their own dashboard like this. So it's really become a much easier way to organize Favro from day one. And down here I have more of your traditional functions in the organization, broken down by account management, community, customer service. If I open up marketing, for example, here is where all the marketing collections could primarily live. Makes it very easy for people new to the tool, new to the platform, to come in and feel immediately oriented. They know where to go to find what they're looking for. And collections folders are very easy to create. Just come in here, say new folder, give it a name, a color, and then you can add collections directly to it from this interface. Or you can drag and drop collections into the folders after the fact. Very slick. Okay, another new thing recently released is shareable links. So often these collections become really a replacement for traditional reports. If you want to show progress on a particular product or a particular initiative, you can simply share the collection, which very visually shows you the progress towards completing that initiative or progress towards that product release, for example. And if you're working with people that may or may not have access, direct access to Favro, you can now create a shareable link in a much more dynamic way. So you could have a restricted link like this, and you could do this either at the collection level or at the board level if you just want to share out a particular board to somebody who doesn't have access to Favro, or even somebody who does, but you want to call out something specifically. So here, restricted means I'm going to share this only to people who are already a member of this collection. Or this very dynamic one here, I'm going to share out to people within my own organization, in my own domain, but it's going to be authenticated. So if somebody tries to use this link, it's going to make sure that they have an actual email address within that domain before they can access it. But they, again, do not have to have an active account in Favro to see that information, to work with that information. And then the third option is anybody with the link. So very similar to when you share a Google Doc, these options here. So anyone with the link is also secure in that it's secret and it's non-searchable. So something that's a little bit hidden, but also a nice new feature in Favro is the ability to do batch editing. And not just batch editing for a very limited amount of things, but batch editing essentially for anything, even custom fields. So the best way to do this is in a Sheets view like this, and you simply just select maybe all of the rows that you'd like to update, all the cards that you'd like to update, and say, I want to change all of these to very high. Now, any column, I can do the same thing. So everything that's selected, all I have to do is here, click very high, and now all of those are instantly updated. Before this, you could only batch update assignments, tags, and colors, but now you can batch update anything. Again, that is kind of hidden, but it's there. Something that's also new and very important for teams transitioning away from Atlassian tools, Jira specifically, to Favro, is the enhanced Jira integration. So to illustrate that, I'm going to go to a QA collection. Typically, you might have development teams, they're fully transitioned to Favro, and you might still have your QA working in Jira, because Jira basically started out as a QA type ticketing system. And they might have a lot of infrastructure reporting or whatnot that they're still relying on in that tool. So to keep things in sync, they can have their entire bug database in Favro, as you see here. Very easy to do thanks to custom fields. You can completely replicate anything that you could have in Jira. And you can even map your bug workflow into the same board by using the different board views. So here we're looking at this bug database, escape bug database as a sheet view, but I could quickly switch it to a Kanban view. And now we can visualize those same cards, those same bugs in a bug workflow perspective. So this is a very typical bug workflow that we're looking at here. Now, to illustrate the Jira integration, I'm also using Favro automations, which is another new feature capability that I'm going to get to in a second. So if I take a bug, if I'm a QA analyst and I take a bug and I verify it, I don't want that bug to be replicated, to be synced to Jira until that bug is verified. So I'm using an automation to handle that. I could have the integration to Jira tied to the entire board so that as soon as anything new was entered onto this board, it was automatically synced in a bi-directional way to Jira. But in this case, I don't want to do that sync until the bug is verified. So simply, I have an automation kicked off when something moves from open to bug verified, like this. You can see that's the Jira icon. It automatically synced this bug to Jira from a triggered automation. So once it knows, okay, this bug is verified, we're going to keep this two-way sync between Jira and Favro from this point forward, including all the data elements. The bug, in this case, since the bug originated in Favro, it assigned it a bug ticket or issue ID in Jira. Description, maybe a default description that can be set up with a template. The bug status, bug resolution, who the bug is assigned to. All of this will now be permanently synced between Jira and Favro on both sides. If something changes in Jira, it'll also be replicated and reflected here in Favro. And that's done with a very simple automation that looks like this. When this is the automations gallery right here. So as soon as a bug moves from open to bug verified, we're sending that card to Jira. This is the Jira server address, the project, the issue type, so on and so forth. Very straightforward. Okay, now fully on to automations. I'm going to go back to this SaaS company. And a couple of examples that I want to show you. The first one, we recently had a customer, Favro recently had a customer that I worked with that wanted a simple request management system that they were trying to replicate in Favro. And so to do that, I just set up a request triage board here on the left and a request fulfillment workflow over here on the right, and then tied this all together via automation. So let me show you how this works, and I'll call out the automations as I go. So say a new request comes in. An automation automatically fired off there to assign that new request that just came in to the person who's responsible for doing the triage, figuring out, okay, based on this request and the type of thing that's been being requested, who's the best person to work on it? So I could say, all right, this is ready. Any one of these, I could say, okay, this is now ready to be worked on. And when I do that, since the cards in Favro can exist in multiple places at the same time, it automatically added that same request to that request fulfillment workflow over here on the right. As that moves through the various stages from the person who's actually assigned to it, right, you're going to be able to see the progress of that request fulfillment over here thanks to relations. So we can see this is currently at the review stage. The other way to trigger a new request getting into that workflow from this request triage backlog is if I, as the person doing the triage, assigns this to somebody who I think is best suited to fix the problem or fulfill the request. So I assign this to, in this case, Camilla, and it removed me automatically, assigned it to Camilla, and it automatically added it to that request Kanban flow. So Camilla's going to see this. She's going to see this maybe via notification. She could see it in her My Cards up here, but she's going to know that there's a new request that she's been assigned to work on. She's going to go through that flow. It's going to eventually get to review, maybe a peer review, and you can see it automatically, again through automations, added the person responsible for doing that peer review to making sure that what she has done is actually correct, double checking it all the way through to done. Now, also, you can see these tags coming in automatically. That's also done via automations. And the way this all works, the automations over here, pretty straightforward. For example, when a card is created, I'm automatically assigning it to me, the person who's responsible for the triage. When a card field changes, so when I change the status from new to ready, saying this is ready to be worked on, we're automatically adding that card to that request Kanban. Now, another good example of automations, very powerful way to use automations. A lot of people do, especially development teams, product owners, product managers, are responsible for release planning. So they want to batch together a number of features for a product and put them into a particular release, or plan them for a particular release, and maybe communicate that to marketing so that they can be in the loop and they know that this new batch of capabilities is coming. So if I'm in a product backlog and a new feature is entered, release tagging can be done via automations. So I'm going to open up this release board, and you're going to see that when I tag this feature to, say, release 1, it automatically adds that feature from the backlog to this release board. If I tag it to release 2, it will appear here in this column. So this release board is a way for somebody to at a glance come in and see what features, what capabilities, what user stories are being tagged or planned for each subsequent release. And as you change this release tag, it would obviously change on the board itself too. Now, what that also did, and this is something that was very difficult to do in Favro prior to automations, is to track the progress of multiple teams working towards a single release in a single place. Before, you had to look at multiple team boards and try to figure out, okay, this team's tracking well, this other team's not. So where are we standing from an overall standpoint? And now when I tag something to a release here over in the backlog, it also automatically adds it, as you can see here, to this release burn down board. So there might be multiple teams, and in this case, there are multiple teams working on this product. Kanban team 1 and Kanban team 2. And so I might have, let's say, Kanban team 1, they're going to commit this or pull this when they have capacity into their board, right? And when they move, since this exists now in 4 places, actually, this feature 11, backlog on this overall release board, the specific release burn down, and now at the team level, when they move something from to do to in development, it automatically moves that same card on the aggregate board where multiple teams, it could be 5, it could be 10 teams are working towards the aggregate progress up here on this release burn down automatically. When it moves from in development to done, you can see it automatically moves on the aggregate board too. So now you can track and actually get a very clean burn down across teams of teams, thanks to automations, and see how are we tracking towards overall completion towards this release, what we plan for this release. And that's all possible via automations. And I can share this collection out with the attendees after the fact, but there are quite a few automations that go into making this happen, but they're all very simple and very straightforward to put together. Okay, Patrick, did you want me to go through a couple of use cases, or would you like to open up to a little bit of Q&A first?
Yeah, and there's just one more upcoming feature I really want to mention. Actually, I want to mention 2 things. So Jon mentioned, Canny. Maybe Jon, in the background, can you just actually go into Canny so we can just show what that looks like?
Sure.
But we basically are developing Favro based on well, basically 4 things actually. One is simply talking to customers, and we are trying to do kind of the 5 whys ourselves. Going a bit deeper on what is the actual problem. I think this is the issue with most tool vendors out there. that just kind of responding to feature requests, just cramming in more features and bloating the tool. What we're always trying to do is to understand, what is the actual problem, the underlying problem, and what would be the best way to solve that. So not being too quick on jumping the guns and just kind of cramming in another feature, but instead trying to think, how do we actually solve the root problem? And I can proudly say that I think Favro has actually got easier to use over time, instead of what's been happening in the market recently with most of the other tools that they just cram in a lot of features and become more complex. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the community here, as Jon is showing you right now. So all of you can go in here, you can suggest features or any kind of improvement, and we will see that. We definitely look at this. We comment on it. You will have my fellow co-founder, Hans, who's our chief product officer. He will be personally in here commenting on some of these. And you can vote, and we do pay attention to the votes. So if you actually care about one of these, make sure you vote. And this is another great source for us on what to develop. Then, of course, we're also looking at the data. We never look at your data. What we're looking at is kind of activity data. So, for example, we will never look at what are you doing, but we will look at this particular new feature that we released, or anyone using it. So we look at those kind of things to make sure does it actually work. And then finally, I think we need vision in this industry. I think we are at a point where we can elevate the way that we organize ourselves as teams. I think tools has an important part to play in that. As humans, making amazing tools is really one of the key parts of what makes humans successful as a species. And we are at that point, I think, where we have an opportunity to elevate in how we organize for higher adaptability. So we do come into this also with vision, what that looks like. That's why we started a company. That's why we're continuing to build this company. So I think you can always trust that when we're doing things, we're doing it with vision in mind. Now, final thing I want to give a little bit of a teaser of here. Jon, maybe you can go back into Favro, and you can kind of just show the new kind of like relations part, because it gives a little bit of a hint of what's coming. So the thing is that since Favro is so powerful supporting big organizations, it's very important that Favro can also visualize how is all of this connected, and if we look at this, if you just expand this window, please. One of the things which is coming now is the view that you're seeing here. This is in closed beta right now. This is why Jon can show it. So it's obviously going to come to all of you very soon. And what we're looking at here is a much more sophisticated overview of how is things connected. So what you see here, if you look there, we have a card here that says Autonomous Vehicle Network, and it's going to say here on board. So which boards is it on? Well, it's on 3 boards, because in Favro, cards can mean multiple boards. So you can see here that this is in the portfolio backlog board, it's in the portfolio Kanban board, it's in the IT product backlog board. And you're going to be able to see, okay, so what collection is that? What's the status? You will be able to update that status, from here if you have the rights to do so. But the thing which we're not showing you today, but you can see hinted here, is that next to onboards there, you have dependencies. Now, this is a tough one, because any of you that have, let's say, an agile coaching background, or maybe an agile coach like right now, then typically the traditional dependencies are simply avoided. If you do, say, a Scrum Master course or Product Owner course, you will take the priorities into when you do your force rank. There's a couple of other techniques how to deal with that, and that's all great. But what we see in practice is, of course, that companies are trying to do a little bit of hybrid, but we don't want to just kind of cram in a very traditional kind of Microsoft product style dependency thing, because that tends to create a spaghetti and it actually causes more problem than it solves. I've seen some startups, they do the old fashioned Microsoft auto leveling, but now they call it, AI based. It's just bullshit. It ruins your organization over time. Don't do it. What you really want, and one of my favorite kind of things to do when I'm been teaching an Agile course, is to explain that your end to start dependencies are typically actually end to end dependencies, which means that it can actually be a little bit more in parallel. That's typically a good thought model to kind of just get a little bit started on, okay, how is this connected? And then what we have done here is that we have designed a dependency functionality that kind of takes that whole idea into account. So the dependencies in Favro that we'll soon release, they will have a direction. You will be able to have basically metadata on it, because you can have a conversation about these dependencies, because we think that's key, because the key to dependencies is to remove dependencies or organize around them. So we're putting in that. We're also visualizing it, but in Favro, it's not going to look like a Gantt schedule. It's going to look a little bit more similar to, if you ever use something like Unreal Engine or Unity. Unity, by the way, being a cool customer of Favro. So that kind of visualization style is going to be more what you're going to see in Favro. And I think it's going to come out really cool. So I can't wait to show it to you. We're going to have new summits online like this in the future. We're going to have one in the fall. So then it's going to be released and we can show it to you live. So with that said, over to questions. And we have a first question here, which says, since when is integration with Jira possible, and is it complex to do it? How is it different from the integration between Confluence and Jira? We're going to have extra costs if we start using it, or is it an extra feature to add value and benefits to the users? Thank you. Okay, so that's a great question. So I'm going to ask that very concretely. So one, it's already released. It's out there right now. You can use it now. Two, there's no extra cost for it. It's included. The only thing to think about is that when you are running integrations, there are limitations to API calls. So it might be that you need to have the enterprise plan for those kind of reasons. And if you're a somewhat bigger organization, you probably want to do that anyways, because you want to have that kind of extra security that comes with it. You probably your legal probably wants to have a DPA with us, or maybe like a special SLA. All of these things are included in the enterprise plan. But the Jira integration is technically also included in the standard plan. So it might be that you just fine with that. Setting it up. Well, I've been for a long time having to deal with kind of Jira integration things, both with this company and the previous company. So it's never as intuitive as the normal features of Favro, but I would say compared to like anything else in the market, it's extremely easy. It's designed that you can set it up yourself. Jon, you've been hand-holding some customers through this. So I think you can testify that this is not that complicated. We typically have all the basics set up within like a 45-minute session online, just kind of jump on a call. Now, so what I would say here is that when you're a Favro customer, it's not only the product, it is also the relation. And we have an amazing customer success team. They will help you with this. They will handhold you with this. But the only thing I would say is that it might be worth contacting Jon instead. And the reason is that very often when you do something like this, it's not only a pure technical question. It's also connected to where are you going as an organization. So, Jon was like hinting to this before, that you have these organizations that want to move away from kind of an old-fashioned way of doing things, but they cannot just go away from Jira overnight. They might have, let's say, maybe the cash cow product is very deep in Jira. So what you can have then is stuff like, you set up the integration in a way that the ones using Jira can still use it. But at the same time, this gets way more embedded into kind of like your internal QA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that whole conversation, I think, is the conversation which is important to have. So to not just view it as a technical question. And this is what Jon is amazing at. You know, he can have that conversation with you, and he has a technical skill to then handhold you setting it up. But if it's just, as I said, if it's just a pure setup question, just contact our customer success and fine. Okay, let's see. Do we have any more questions? There's one open there. Okay, good. And we are on time with 1 minute margin. Okay, that now is exactly time. So so great having you all. As I mentioned, this is recorded. You can watch it afterwards.
Patric, there's still a couple of use cases that I wanted to show if you wanted me to show those too.
What are the use cases?
So the recruitment and also game development.
Yeah, so what we can do is that we can do a bit of like an extended 10 minutes where we show that. So if, I know some of you need to go now. And just check into recording if you want to see the case of it was recruiting, Jon, or what else?
Recruitment and game development and marketing too, if people are interested in marketing.
I think we should do recruitment and game development. Sorry, recruitment and marketing then. Okay. So for the ones of you that can stay, we're going to do like maximum 10 minutes showing these two examples. And for the ones who can't stay, it's going to be on the recording, so you can fast forward to the end and watch recruitment in Favro and marketing in Favro if that's something you want to see. So back to you then, Jon. Let's do 10 more minutes.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Can do. All right. So along when Patric opened this up, it's the whole idea, the reason for Favro's creation was because this whole agile way of working, this whole agile mindset has expanded far beyond just development teams, product development teams, software development teams, where it essentially originated, to the entire organization. So a great example of this idea of business agility, where the entire business has to be agile, especially with things happening so fast, the entire organization has to inspect and adapt much more quickly. And when Patric talks about collaborative planning, it's making sure that a development team that is in a recruitment situation where they need to expand the team, they're rapidly growing, they need to be tied very closely to recruitment. That's made very easy by Favro. So say, for example, I'll go to this people operations HR collection, and we have this recruitment pipeline. So this recruitment pipeline could be focused on recruiting maybe software engineers, whatever the case may be. And this could be added, you could add this entire board very easily to a product dashboard for that team to stay in sync with the recruitment efforts. So probably whoever's responsible for that product team, whether it's a product manager or product owner, multiple scrum masters, they can all see what's going on from a recruitment standpoint adding to their team, because the boards can live in multiple places. But for the board itself, for the recruitment effort itself, HR in general, HR departments are also becoming more and more agile. To take the flow that you might have in your head, or it's on paper, or it's in a checklist somewhere, and put that into a Kanban and map it out so you can visualize the flow. So here in this recruitment pipeline, you can very clearly see every stage of the recruitment process, and also see what candidates are at what stage. So Vera, for example, we can see that she's she's at the selected resume stage. She's somebody that we'd like to bring in for interviews. She gets pulled into a round of interviews. Everybody gives the thumbs up, thinks she's a great candidate, gets pulled into a background check. That all checks out as well. The offer is made, and Vera accepts that offer, and she is hired, right? So as soon as she's hired, another automation was kicked off behind the scenes here and automatically added the card representing Vera to an onboarding flow. So this idea of multiple flows for the same cards happening at the same time is a very powerful way for multiple teams to collaborate. So you might have an onboarding team working in tandem with a recruitment team. So automatically the onboarding team has been notified because this card has been added to their board, which might live in another collection, but for the sake of example, I also have it here. And you can see that, yes, that card representing Vera has been automatically added to this onboarding flow. So same way we did with the recruitment, map out what's the flow of onboarding. So as Vera, before she even joins the organization, you're going to get her equipment and login ready, whoever's responsible for that, pull that in here like this. On her first day, she's going to do her paperwork, maybe go through an orientation. And thanks to relations being displayed directly on the card, we can see that, yeah, from a recruitment standpoint, we obviously know that she was hired, but people following her progress from the HR side can automatically see that, oh, okay, Vera is currently in the orientation stage of her onboarding flow. And that's all, very simple to set up with these various Favro boards. Okay, another example that I want to show you, kind of a less traditional, but more and more popular way of business agility or agile practices is for marketing teams. So if I open up this marketing folder, I have an internal marketing team here, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through how they could use Favro to work in an agile way and maybe stay in sync with a product development team, for example. So say they have they have this backlog full of not epics and user stories as a feature team would have, but rather full of campaigns broken down into the value deliverables to make that campaign happen. So maybe there's a new asset that needs to be created, something like this. They give it a priority. And the team might be working in Scrum, they might be working in Kanban, whichever kind of agile technique they choose. But the idea is, as with a product development team, they would pull in when they have the capacity, that high priority new asset. It now exists in both places. They can track the flow of that directly from the backlog, as you see here. They can take this too and put it onto a more visual roadmap if they want to track it that way, and take that card and drag it up here and adjust it on the timeline like this. Now this exists in 3 places. It's here in the backlog, it's here on the sprint board, and it's also now on their roadmap. So maybe if somebody looking at it from just a roadmap perspective knows when this is coming and when it's being worked on. Now, if they're working in tandem with a product development team, there might be a new feature, right, such as cross-platform cloud sync, which might be a big enough feature that they actually want to make sure they have some marketing assets or a marketing campaign around to communicate that to the user base. So as soon as this maybe makes it to QA review, it might be prudent for the marketing team to be made aware of this, right? And that could be as simple as taking this. They could be tracking what's in QA review, and they could drag this into their backlog, or they could drag it directly onto their board and create whatever marketing materials need to be created to promote, to communicate this new capability. And that's that whole idea of not creating silos, right? So that collaborative planning, not just within the team itself, but across teams of teams. And that's another good example of how that's facilitated, made very simple by Favro. And so those are just 2 good examples, and those are the 2 that we have time to show you today.
Jon, we also have certifications.
We do.
That would be cool if you can show that. So if I can just address you all first. We have, as a company, we're not consultants. We partner with amazing consultants like Jon. And this is good because often, especially like bigger companies, they want to do a bit of an agile transformation, and they need help, with not just the tool, but also the way it working, right? So Jon is great for this, and also the consultants we have in Italy and in Scandinavia. Now, you can also by yourself do a certification called the Agile Fundamentals and Agile Advanced. Now, these two are great because you can just log in and do them, hopefully pass the test, and you will be able to put these logos on your LinkedIn or otherwise. Now, Agile Fundamentals is $150 and Agile Advanced is $400. But we can give you vouchers for this. So if you're one of our clients, or also if you're one of the potential clients, just ping us, customer success, or any of the salespeople you're talking to, just let us know, and we will give you a voucher, and you can do this for free. But if you want to do something deeper, like for the whole organization, we have something called like a quick start package, and we have these deeper certifications. This is the real ones. This is like getting the summarized certification of Favro Agile. And Jon is someone who can do that for you. So Jon, why don't you walk us through this?
Okay, so as Patric said, there's three essentially different levels of training and certification for Favro. Myself as a Favro Agile partner is the primary provider of these certifications. So here, these are the fully self-service ones, as Patric said. Favro Agile Fundamentals, go at your own pace. It's a full online experience. Even the actual certification at the end, the online test at the end, is completely hands-off. So it's a no pressure type environment. Take as long as you want. Take as long as you want to do the certification exam itself. Of course, it's open book, honor system. And that is also true for Favro Agile Advanced. So for people new to these Agile way of working, it's highly recommended to go through at least the Agile Fundamentals. And why would you take this over some other Agile certification? It's because it's in context to Favro, which just happens to be, as Favro says, as Patric says, the most Agile collaborative tool, right? So it puts it in context. It's actually presented out of Favro. Okay, so, and that is also true for Favro Agile Advanced. If you want to take it to the next level, then you can do that hands-off as well. Now, from a live perspective, taking it to the next level, the more advanced level, so to say, the first one here, which this is all live online, I am the trainer of these courses. So once we moved to, because of the pandemic, to everything being remote, I started providing these live online. Hopefully, as things open up, I can actually come on site. I'm being scheduled to do so in Montreal here very soon. It'll be great to travel again to do Favro Platform Master. Now, this is soup to nuts, everything there is to know about Favro, not necessarily Agile, about Favro. So if you want to become a Favro expert from an administration standpoint, a configuration standpoint, setting up workflows, the automations, the integrations, so on and so forth, all the capabilities that are within the tool. And the tool is very deep, even though it's very easy to use. Patric likes to liken it to chess, is that it's very kind of simple to pick up. There's only a few moves, but it's a very deep platform. It's a very deep game, and with the chess analogy, which I like, because I think it's very accurate as to what Favro has to offer. So come to this page, you can see everything that's included in Favro Platform Master, for example. Now, if I go back here, there's also there's a very deep certified Agile professional course. This is, of course, live online too, and an Agile game developer training and certification specific to game development, which happens to be the world that I come from as an ex-video game producer. And then for the new organizations, or even organizations who have been using Favro for a while, but they feel like things have become too chaotic. Maybe they didn't start the way they should have. There wasn't enough structure put into place. But very specifically to new organizations starting out with Favro for the first time, and they want to maximize their investment. They don't just want a new tool, but they actually want a new way of working. They want to kind of transform their way of working to a much more agile, a much more flow-based way of working. Then it's highly recommended to make the additional investment to go with one of these Favro Quick Start packages. And they're targeted towards whether you're a large enterprise, a SaaS company, or a game studio. And just to take a look at the enterprise version, if you do go this route, there's a very significant 25% Favro annual discount by going this route. And you'll also have a Favro Agile partner such as myself sit with you, whether it's virtually, remotely, or on site for 5 days for an entire work week to make sure that the transition from whatever tool you're moving to Favro is a smooth one, okay? And that includes custom design, configuration, doing the integration, configuring the integrations to your existing business critical tools, doing any data migration. Here's a kind of layout of a day-to-day basis of what to expect. So the first 2 days are design and integration. So designing what this Favro implementation is going to look like, mapping your organizational structure to the tool, creating those workflows at the team level, creating those automations at the team level, so the teams don't have to figure it out from scratch for themselves. The second day is more focused on data migration. If you're moving from another tool, we do that for you as well. There's 2 training and certifications included, as well as the end user onboarding training. So there's a short session for each team or teams of teams to make sure they're not just coming into it cold, they're oriented with the tool itself. But for the internal champions, the 2 trainings that are included over those 2 days are the Certified Favro Platform Master for the people who really need to understand how Favro works. And then internally, they can be the internal champions. Other people in the organization can come to them. They can even run the training internally if they choose to. And then also for organizations new to Agile ways of working, the Certified Favro Agile Professional is perfect for them because it gets them up to speed, not only on Agile and Agile ways of working, but also very specific to Favro. And then as, of course, fully supported launch, there's a communications plan that runs through the whole thing, making sure everybody in the organization knows this is coming. And then there's success tracking and metrics built into this at the very end to make sure that people are actually using it and they're using it to the best benefit to the entire organization. So those are really the 3 levels of training and certification that are offered here.
Yeah, and I see people that have done your courses. They're typically very quick on putting these on their LinkedIn. So that's great. And I mean, we're still a relatively new company, but the user base is starting to become quite large. So it's also something a bit meriting, especially when it comes to kind of venture-backed startups in the SaaS industry and game studios. We've seen that it's something beneficial to have experience, with Favro, when moving between companies, because it's a bit of a cluster, so to say, with users there, and as I said, I'm in Dubai right now, and we're starting to see some really big kind of investment companies here starting to use, Favro, which is really cool. It's quite a competitive space, here, and Favro is winning the hearts of people doing kind of like a digital transformation in a kind of a post-COVID era. So, so this is good stuff. So with that said, Jon, I think we can say thanks to everyone here now for being with us, the ones who stayed for the bonus session after we kind of officially, cut the session. Awesome. I hoped it was worth the time with that kind of little extra material that we had here in the end. And I hope you all have a really good summer wherever you are. And hopefully I see you very soon in a physical meeting where we all get together maybe we'll be in Uppsala, where we have our headquarters, and maybe it will be in Vilnius, where we're just building this new amazing office right now. Maybe we'll be in our office in Ukraine, or maybe it's Berlin or London or whatever. We'll see. So we're super looking forward to that. And Jon, come over to Europe then when we do that thing, and see you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.